Welcome, everybody, to our first off-season special of Bleav in Chargers. That's Lorenzo, Neal. I'm Born in Azari. Listen, the Charger season may be over, but the playoffs surely aren't, and we are still going to have you covered on all things pigskin. Lo, listen, as we take some time to debrief and talk about this Chargers season, you, as a former player, are you all sitting on the couch now watching these other teams, or are you trying to get away from football as much as you can?
No, absolutely. I'm watching these other teams because, man, you know what? The Chargers stood be still in the dance. I hadn't trying to get to the dance, but unfortunately, it didn't happen the way that we both liked it to happen, Borna. We thought that there should have been maybe a reason for some discussion and some alarm there in LA with the Chargers. And we saw a couple heads roll, a couple coaches get the hot seat, but definitely, Borna, I'm going to be connected and locked in throughout the playoffs.
Absolutely. With the Chargers, listen, here's the deal. Head coach Brandon Staley likely is going to keep his job, and ownership, Tom Telesco, have the full right and faith in him, as you should, in getting this thing to go around. Listen, they did make improvements even with all those injuries. We saw the news of Joe Lombardi, offensive coordinator of the Chargers, losing his job, and I think Brandon Staley said it best. And Lo, it looks like Brandon Staley's been watching Bleav in Chargers because he says he wants to focus on that run game a little bit more and help establish that run and really help in that run blocking scheme as well. So I really think with the Chargers, they're going to be looking for an offensive coordinator who can help establish that run game. They reached out to the Vikings to interview their OC. The Vikings and his OC were like, no. Ben Johnson staying in Detroit. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of who the Chargers target. Does Staley want to go with a safer kind of guy? Does he want to roll the dice and go with a young guy who's never called any plays? If you're Brandon Staley, right, Lorenzo, Neal, you have to get this hire right. This is your chance. You have to get this hire right. So what do? Do you roll the dice or do you try and play it safe? You have to get this hire right.
You have to. You can't miss this one. But you're Staley. You got to look at it. And you got to go through a long interview process. You have to get a guy that's not just going to be run oriented. You got to make sure that in the league that we're in now, they got to be diversified and you got to be able to run and pass. You want someone that's going to be able to give the illusions, but you got to make sure that you're getting a run game specialist. You need to make sure you're going out and getting a coach that understands the nuances of the run game. It's just not line up and say, let's be physical, let's go downhill and just block guys and move guys, and that's how you run the ball. No, there is a method and there's a skill set to running the ball. Look no further than the San Francisco 49ers. We'll get in this, Borna, and we'll start going down the playoffs and talk about the different teams and what they do well. But look at the Niners. It's not that they're just some dominant physical team. It's by scheme, it's by design, and that's why you have an effective running game.
Absolutely. And you tend to notice, we've talked about this, all great teams usually are running the football to some degree. So it's going to be very interesting to see, what the Chargers do. I had some interesting takeaways from Brandon Staley's press conference. I thought the media was kind of on him, especially Bill Plaschke. He was on Brandon Staley talking about if he was out coached by Doug Peterson and all these stuff. And listen, that's what you have to be prepared for if you're a head coach, right? You have to be prepared for the media, especially coming off a franchise giving up a biggest lead. He should be very prepared that he's going to hear it from the media. And he did. I thought Brandon Staley was professional about it. I really do think, that it's going to take time to revamp this running game. And listen, I think a part of it's personnel too. I think Austin Ekeler is a superstar running back. He is fantastic. I'm just not sure if Ekeler fits the exact scheme that the Chargers want to develop, right? In terms of running the ball north and south, right? If you take a look at Kyle Shanahan, his running backs, Austin Ekeler is arguably more talented than any running back Shanahan has. However, the scheme in which Shanahan wants to conduct aren't using guys who are kind of east and west, agile, little screen guys in Ekeler. They're more north and south guys who are going to bruise you, right? And Jeff Wilson Jr., right? Back in the day, and Mostert and all those guys, Elijah Mitchell. So I think the Chargers need to really think about what kind of scheme that they want to do and how can they get the best personnel to do so. If they want to have a north and south scheme kind of like Shanahan, if you're trying to use Austin Ekeler in that scheme, it's kind of like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It doesn't work like that. You're not putting your players in a position to succeed. So, Lo, I think there's going to be a lot of overhaul this offseason, not only in terms of scheme, but maybe some roster too to really help find talent who can fit that scheme. But the core pieces of the Chargers are there. You can't ruin that. You have to find a scheme that fits your personnel.
Oh, no question. And then they're going to do that. And I know that Staley wants to, and he handled it well, because when you realize the last couple of weeks, when you look at the media, the way that he handled the game against Denver, he said, hey, we're going to have guys who's going to be okay when, your guy wasn't going to be okay. The way that he said, hey, I coached it. And he was very, very aggressive and very just kind of unpleasant to the media and lied a couple of things to the media. He had to come back and fall on the sword. So it's good to see that he's taken a page and said, I got to be humble. I have to understand that I got to answer, the questions about Mike Williams and should have did a better job.
Yeah.
because that's the media feels betrayed because of the fact that he kind of led them astray. So, and you look at this Niner team, you look at this Charger team, and you think, what was the biggest thing? And you and I, we talked about it. We said, look, I think that they can play well, but it's going to be tough to win because you're on a short week. You know that. And Borna, you've seen that. You played on Sunday. You played your starters too long. And then all of a sudden you had to fly 3 time zones back east and fly out on a Friday. So you wasn't playing on a Sunday. And you saw the effects of that game on Denver because in the second half and the fourth quarter, they were just a sieve. They were showing themselves. Guys, the physicality, the game caught up with them. So I think a lot of this has to fall on Staley, and I think he understands that, and I think he accepts that. And that's why I think he's got to do a better job of hiring, but not just hiring. I'm a huge guy, Borna, in not necessarily analytics. I believe that analytics are sophisticated scouting because it tells you this is what they do. It's tendency. So it is scouting. But the biggest thing that I am a proponent of, and I tell you, I've turned and came around because I think someone at that organization say, no, we're taking that out of your hand. We're going to hire someone, quality control, that's going to tell you what the analytics say, when to go for it on fourth down, when to do this.
Just a specific position just for that, huh?
Just for that. And because I want to take that from the coach for someone to say, nope, this is what it says. And if you're wrong, now the coach can say, look, I did what the analytics I said we do because you saw this year against the Cleveland. He said, oh, I went for it on fourth down.
Yeah, that game sticks out to you.
You should have lost that game.
Yeah,
so you've got to have someone take that off your plate as a head coach and focus on the game.
Yeah, that's a really good point because it's tough to think about what defense am I going to call, what player are we going to call here, and then realize, oh wait, I have to make a decision that's going to cause the balance of this game. A lot of people don't understand when you're a head coach, you kind of have to take a step back in terms of play calling. I know Staley's still going to do that, but you actually have to manage a game, which is something that coordinators don't have to do, which may seem easy when you're watching on TV as a home viewer, right? You're like, just do this. But when you have 100 other things going on in your brain schematically, it's a lot easier said than done. By the way, guys, we want to shout out our sponsors, betonline.ag. It's your number one source for all betting needs. Right now, if you go to BetOnline, the Chiefs are at the highest odds to win the Super Bowl. They got home field advantage in the AFC. I'm going to tell you right now, I locked that in 3 months ago, and I'm telling you right now, I'm feeling a little juicy. I'm feeling sexy. Yeah, I'm feeling. Listen, call me crazy. I feel like Mahomes is going to go to his 5th straight AFC Championship game. That's greatness, man. You got to give credit where credit is due. So I'm locked in, Lo. I'm locked in. I'm hoping I get a juicy. What are you doing, Lo?
What are you thinking? So if you're locked in and you're tunneled in and you're like, I got this. I know Kansas City's going. Tell me about it. Let's make that transition to what we got. And let's start with right there with the AFC. You look, who do you like? Why? Let's get in there.
Well, let's start with the Bills-Bengals preview. I think it's a very interesting game. I thought both teams were disappointing in their wild card outings. I think the Bengals, man, if it wasn't for a Tyler Huntley leap over the pylon, fumble, 99-yard return, the Bengals are losing that football game. And then the Bills and the Bills, I mean, we were texting during the game and you called me and you're like, Borna, you were right. They're so nonchalant with how they do things and they're so talented. That's why they're able to get away with it. So both of these teams are playing a little sloppy right now. I'm going to give the edge just to Buffalo because it's in Orchard Park. And I know the Bengals weren't too happy about kind of the location situation, but right now, Lorenzo, I still think Kansas City stands better than both of those teams. I just think they play cleaner football. They don't have the same talent, right, as the Bills do, Kansas City anymore. But they just play cleaner. They play sound football. But starting with that Bills-Bengals game, I'm going slight win to the Bills. I think the Bengals cover, though, plus 3.5. What about you, Lorenzo?
I look at this game, and I love this matchup. You have two quarterbacks that people think are going to be the next quarterbacks in the face of the league for the next 10 to 15 years, and I tend to agree with you. I think both these quarterbacks can sling the ball. They have a great feel. But I trust Josh Allen. I like Josh Allen. I like what he does, big arm. But sometimes he trusts himself a little too much. And for that reason, I look at it and say, okay, what can Buffalo do? Like you said, they can make mistakes and still light it up and come from being down a deficit. But I just think they're a little careless. I think the Cincinnati Bengals, when you look at them, they don't have a great offensive line. Everyone thinks they're going to give up a bunch of sacks this week. Everyone talks about the Bengals, how good are. I think the Bengals, when you think about their run game, I like what they can do. I think they're a little bit more consistent running the ball. And I think if you let them stay around, because you have to realize the coin flip, all the things that surround it. The Bengals believe that they should have been in a better position. The Bengals believe that they're better than. So I think that you look at the Bengals, they know that they're better than Baltimore. Baltimore shouldn't have been on the same playing field with them. And look at it. Baltimore turned into the game because the Bengals, to me, they couldn't flip the switch. They came in with the mindset that we're going to win this game. And Baltimore said, oh, yeah, you guys don't respect this. You guys don't care. And I think they overlooked. I think both these teams might have overlooked their opponents. So I think this is not going to be the overlooking. And I think Cincinnati Bengals are looking forward to this game, and so is the Buffalo Bills. So if you can't get along, you might as well get it on. And I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals, brother.
That's a good point, honestly. You honestly make me think about a lot of things that I say, and you're like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe both teams were overlooking their opponents. It's very easy if you're the Bills to overlook Skylar Thompson, your third string quarterback of the Dolphins. Like, you're the Buffalo Bills. I feel like that was very easy for them to just be like, this is going to be a cakewalk. And honestly, it's better to win like that. They probably got humbled, and now they're going to have a lot different of a week, right, of preparation, against the Bengals. And then with Cincinnati as well, I thought Tyler Huntley just played a really good game. I thought he played his best game as a starter since Lamar Jackson went down. So listen, Lo, I ain't touching this game, man. This game can go either way. I don't want to touch it. It's going to be a hell of a football game. Let's go to Kansas City now. Listen, the Chiefs are hosting their 100th straight divisional game at Arrowhead. It seems like it. Mahomes and Kansas City. Looks like they're probably going to be without Mecole Hardman. Everything else is lining up pretty good. They got that 7th-round special kid in Isaiah Pacheco against Trevor Lawrence now in the Jaguars, who beat our Chargers, and they're playing with some momentum. I think the Jaguars have won 6 straight games, including the postseason. Yeah. They were 4-8. They ended the year at 9-8, and they won their playoff game. So listen, at this point, if you're Jacksonville, what are you playing with? You're playing with absolutely house money. You were not expected to get this far. You were not expected to win a playoff game, heck, be in the playoffs. Now you're 1 win away from an AFC title game. All the pressure's on Kansas City. If you're the Jaguars, this is going to be a closer game than I think people think. What are your initial thoughts on this one?
Well, I look at the Jaguars, and you think about what they played in week 5 or 6, those two teams, and I think Kansas City, it was a great game. Kansas City did not run away with it. Jacksonville was all over them. They had to, really, really buckle down to find a way to win that game. I think when you look at this game, I think that Kansas City understands that. I think you're playing with a Kansas City team that's going to be a lot more hungry and understand that Jacksonville is playing with house money and understand that Jacksonville believes, and they're going to be watching that tape. Look, we had them. We had Kansas City. We had them beat. They got some hope, but I think Kansas City is going to be aware, and I think Mr. Mahomes, he's going to have something to say about that. And I think because of Kansas City, the ability to run the ball now and how they run the ball and how effective they've been both passing and running, I give Kansas City. I think this can get lopsided.
You think it's going to be lopsided?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's so unpredictable. I mean, right now I'm trying to find the odds. I think the Chiefs are 8.5-point favorites. So Vegas is on your side. I mean, it's very rare to see an 8.5-point favorite in the postseason, let alone in the divisional round. So I definitely think Vegas thinks Kansas City is going to run through Jacksonville. Listen, I don't think it's going to be lopsided. I think Kansas City is going to win this football game, and I think they're going to do so effectively. But I think Jacksonville is going to be able to keep it close for a good part of the game. Listen, you always try and catch those 1 seeds off guard. They're coming off a bye week, right? So are they going to be starting slow? The Chiefs were never really playing an elimination game all year long, to be quite frank with you. That's kind of the one drawback of being the number 1 overall seed. You have a team in Jacksonville who's been playing 6 straight elimination games. They're coming into town with already that pressure, already having that sense of pressure. And obviously Mahomes has been in those situations, but a lot of these newer players on Kansas City haven't been. So we're going to see how Kansas City is able to set the tone early on. You try and get those number 1 seeds to see if they're caught flat. I don't think Kansas City will, but there's another number 1 seed I do think will be caught flat. That's the Philadelphia Eagles, Lorenzo. No, I hope you like that sexy transition, because I'm telling you, there are three teams. There are 3 teams in the NFC East less in the playoffs, which is crazy, right? The Giants, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. We're going to get into Cowboys-Niners. That's the big hurrah. But let's start with Eagles-Giants. I'm blown away by the Giants. Brian Daboll, man, I was hoping the Chargers offense can look like a semblance of that, even though they have better talent. Is making that offense look fantastic. They have no receivers. All right. It's Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley carrying that team. The offensive line's banged up. First of all, before we get into this game, what were your thoughts on their win over Minnesota? Were you impressed by that?
I was impressed. I really lackluster Minnesota. The inconsistency on Minnesota, the breakdown. You let a quarterback, 6'8" quarterback, run around and pick up so many yards with his legs. I don't think he's going to have that type of success in Philadelphia. And like you said, Saquon Barkley, he got to save himself because he didn't run the ball 30, 40 times. It wasn't 4 yards in a cloud of dust. I thought the quarterback did a great job of making plays, opportune plays. It's going to be dependent on Giants defense. How good is this Giants defense? What can they do? Because, yes, Minnesota, they are just a team on defense. It's just horrible. So I don't know. Was it more fool's gold with Minnesota and the Giants? Or do you think the Giants are really that good? I Bleav one thing. I think Philadelphia is going to have a big head, and they've already played them several weeks back and took care of them. So I think that it's going to be a good game. I just don't know yet.
The Giants are a lot better of a team than they were when they faced the Eagles a few weeks back and they got blown out. Listen, I think the Giants are very strong. I just think the Eagles are slightly better in every single category, right? The Eagles line is a little bit better. They have a little bit better of a quarterback. Their defense is just a little bit better. They have better weapons, right? In A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert and company. But unfortunately for the Eagles, the Giants are peaking at the right time. Right? They're able to blitz less on defense because of a healthier defensive line. They're willing to trust Daniel Jones more. The receiver group is established and it's underrated. The coaching staff is on a roll. And like the Eagles, the Giants running game is very, very dangerous in short yardage and red zone situations. I just think, that the Giants have more momentum here. The Eagles, right, they stumbled to the finish line. They had Lane Johnson hurt, Jalen Hurts hurt. We don't know the injury situation with those guys. I really think that this is going to be decided late. I really am bullish on this Giants team. I think this Giants team can. I'm crazy. I think this Giants team can go to the Super Bowl. Though I'm crazy.
No. I don't think you're being absurd.
There's something about them right now that I feel that they're just playing such good football and they're not fazed by anybody.
They might be a team of destiny. So you give the Giants a better chance of beating Philly than if Dallas would have been there, or if Dallas?
Yes.
Okay, see, and that's where I'm not. See, I think that Dallas scores with Philly. Dallas can put points on Dallas matchups. Dallas make fights. So I think that Dallas is just a good matchup for the Philadelphia Eagles. I was wishing that the Dallas Cowboys some kind of way could have got to Philly, and
No doubt.
Yeah, because I think the Giants don't match up well against the Niners. I think when you look at it, they don't score enough. I just don't know if the Giants score enough to match up with Philly. What say you?
Yeah, it's tough because it really depends on how they can limit Daniel Jones in terms of the Philadelphia Eagles. If Daniel Jones is starting to become a threat with his legs, that's what makes Saquon Barkley that much more potent. Because if you have to worry about Daniel Jones with his legs, imagine some read option stuff that the Giants have been starting to do with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones is fast, Lorenzo, Neal.
He's strong.
He's strong. He's big. And, man, he is tough. There was a quarterback sneak I know they were showing in Minnesota where he got bent back like a pretzel, and he immediately got up, and that guy is tough as nails. And listen, Daniel Jones he's gone through it. He's heard all the scrutiny. He's heard that he was a bust. He's heard that, Dave Gettleman messed up on him and the Giants need to move on. This guy is tough, man. And I really respect him because I think he's gained the trust of that locker room. I think Brian Daboll has really started to get the most out of him. And I really do think that, listen, the Giants have a shot in this game. Of course, the Eagles are favorites, and that's why Vegas gave them 7.5 points. I guarantee that the Giants are going to cover that spread. I don't think Eagles are going to win by more than a touchdown in this game. And heck, I really do think the Giants are destined here. Here's my thing with the Eagles, Lo. A lot of inexperience. I know they made the playoffs last year, but this is kind of a year where everything's been good. Nick Sirianni's all smiling. He's all butterflies. They had the number 1 seed. Jalen Hurts never really has had expectations until now, right? I just feel like a lot of their big-time position players and their stars aren't really haven't really been in this kind of position where they're not hunting, they're being the hunted. And I think that is a very dangerous position to be in. And I don't think you learn how to be successful in that until you've already been hunted. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. No, Giants by 3.
Wow. So yeah, I know you took the Bills, so I got the Bengals. But if you were matching these teams up, and just go back, as I digress, we're gonna go back and then we'll move forward. Give me in the AFC, give me your rankings of quarterbacks. Give me the top 4 quarterbacks right there.
In the entire playoffs, or just in the AFC?
In the playoffs right now. In the playoffs, no, just in the AFC playoffs. Yes.
Oh, okay. So ranking my AFC quarterbacks, number 1, I have Patrick Mahomes. Number 2, I have Joe Burrow. I have Joe Burrow over Josh Allen right now. Josh Allen's just been, and that's going to be the biggest question: who's 2, who's 3, right? Because Lawrence is 4. Is it Burrow or Allen at 2? Right now, Josh Allen is just too mistake prone with the football right now. So I have to give the nod to Joe Burrow.
And I'm with you. I'm the same shirt, same pew. So my question to you: so why do you have Buffalo beating them when you see Josh Allen, as of late, last several weeks, interception? He's been giving the ball away, careless with the ball. He got the big arm. The guy's unbelievable talent.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you say that? Okay, if that's the case,
it's a good question. 2 things. 1, home field. I think it's very big being in Buffalo. Number 2, I just feel as if the Bills need to break through, and they're finally going to break through. It's just kind of an intuition thing. The Bengals broke through last year. The Bills haven't been able to break through. I think they're just destined to at least break through. I don't know. It's more of like a gut thing. I think it's finally their time to arrive. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to win a Super Bowl, but I think it's probably their time to get to one.
Okay, fair enough. I love it. Thanks for sharing. Now let's go to the granddaddy, baby. Let's talk about the big game.
Let's talk about it. Giants, Cowboys. The storyline, a historic matchup, right? With a lot of legacy, history, 2 historic, successful franchises. And the biggest question heading into last week was Dak Prescott and his awful performance against Washington. The headlines this week are Dak Prescott a top 5 quarterback because of his sensational performance in Tampa Bay? It all is dependent on what the Cowboys get from Prescott. If they get a sensational Prescott performance, the Niners could be in trouble. And Brock Purdy, my one knock on Purdy, Low, was how does this guy respond if his team gets down? How does this guy respond if his team's in trouble? He responded against Seattle. The Niners didn't look good at first. I told you, too, the Seahawks would take the lead in that football game. I told you that, and I said, is Purdy going to be able to respond? And he did. Check. Where do you start in this game? Where does your mind immediately go to in this football game?
To me, it's this Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator, which he's going to probably get a head coaching job. Is he playing for a head coaching job for everyone to look at him and say, hey, look at me? Or is he playing to actually try to win the game? And you're like, well, I hope he's playing to win the game. And what I mean by that, I think it's easy for coach to get caught up in all the hoopla because how great of an offensive mind Kellen is and what he's done. So does he go and say, I want to show and I'm start throwing the ball all over the field, throwing it and just taking the ball because you got the weapons, you got the quarterback. So does he take that approach? Or does he say, I'm going to ride this with the run game? Am I going to try to keep this game close, run the ball, play action, keep the Niners not fresh, keep them on the field, ball control, sustain drives? That I want to know is Kellen Moore. What's his thought process? So I think that's where it starts with me. I think this is a huge coach's game. I think both these 2 teams have talent. I think the winner of this game, I think, represents the NFC in the Super Bowl.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's not the biggest of hot takes. The question.
That was odd, baby. That was odd.
Okay, fine. Low, here's the deal. I still think there's a lot more pressure on Dallas than there is San Francisco to win this football game. Here's what I'll ask you, and maybe you disagree with me, but if the Cowboys lose this football game, would you say it's a big failure on their year?
I would and I wouldn't. I would because I would say if they were to lose to Philly, and this is where I say if Philly was over, if they were playing Philly, I would say it'd be a bigger failure. Because if it's the Niners, because I think the Niners have a good overall team, I'd say it'd be a failure, but not as big if it would be to Philly if they would have lost to Philly.
Yeah. It's such a tough game. The Niners are red hot. I was 4 years old last time the 49ers lost a football game. They are playing elite football. Brock Purdy, right? And everything changed when they acquired Christian McCaffrey. I mean,
Yes.
everything changed with that football team. Just look at their win-loss. I think they've lost one game with McCaffrey, if even. Everything changed when they acquired that guy.
It did.
And they got Debo back. It looks like Purdy loves Ayuk the most. George Kittle is, all pro as he is. And that defense, the Niners don't have a weakness, knock on wood. I think they're the best team in the NFL at the moment, but that doesn't mean they're unbeatable.
No,
they're unbeatable. And Seattle showed that in that first half, that you can run the football against them. Seattle ran the football at times effectively against the 49ers, and a few big plays that opened up the field. They had some good connections at DK Metcalf. The Cowboys have more weapons than that to really get something good. Listen, the Dallas Cowboys have the ingredients to pull off the upset. Before the 49ers acquired Christian McCaffrey, a lot of people were saying that the Cowboys were the most talented team in the NFC.
They are. They are very talented, in my opinion. And I think when you look at the Niners can't let the Dallas Cowboys stay two-dimensional. You have to shut down the run. You have to say, we got to make Dak Prescott, and we got to put the offense and defense in front's got to put pressure on him. You cannot let the Dallas Cowboys have 120 yards rushing and Dak Prescott have 4 first downs because he extended plays with his legs, or first down quarterback sneak. You cannot do that if you're the Niners. If you look at this and you talk about this matchup, that's some of the things that scare me. The Niners got to play better. And the Niners on the back end, they're not great on the back end. It all starts up front for the Niners. If they can't put pressure on the quarterback, I don't know how good their secondary is. Their secondary, you have to look at the Niners too, Bona. If I ask you this, check this out. If I ask you, name me 2 teams that the Niners have played this year with 3 wins over 500. Name me a team that the Niners played this year that has 3 wins over 500. And after you're thinking about that, then name me a team. See, had to think about it. Yeah, mind blown. And then after you come up with that, then name me 3 teams, or name me 2 teams that the Niners played that has 2 games over 500.
I don't know. Tell.
I think there's Kansas City Chiefs, and they got beat. If you look at the 2 teams that should not have been in the playoffs this year, I'm going to keep it plain and simple. There's 2 teams that should not have been in the playoffs. The great Tom Brady, even though because he's good, but his team's not. And Seattle. Those are the 2 teams that should not have been in the playoffs this year. And guess what? Both these 2 teams played those teams. Well, both the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys, both teams played the 2 worst teams in the playoffs.
That's very interesting. That's a good point, man. Yeah, it's gonna. I don't know. This should be a very interesting game. I really think it all goes back to Purdy again. Current situation, Lo, are you fully confident with Purdy? Like, still heading into these playoff games? Like, do you have full confidence, like, that Brock Purdy's gonna be able to do enough here? Are you a little concerned?
Just like I asked you earlier, if I told you to name the quarterbacks in the NFC, you already did an AFC.
Let's rank them. Okay.
Who's your? Yeah.
This is tough. This is tough.
That's why I'm making
because the quarterback talent is a lot less in the NFC than it is in the AFC.
Yeah.
I think people are going to have Hurts and Dak at 1A, 1B. I don't think people really know right now. Hurts has been the more consistent and the better quarterback this year, but I think people can argue that when Dak is going well, he could be slightly better than Hurts. At least he is right now, like in that Tampa Bay game. I'm going to go Hurts 1. I'm going to go Dak right under him, and then I'm going to go Purdy, and then I'm going to go Daniel Jones. What about you?
That's what I thought I was going to say. That's the point that I'm trying to make. I got Dak at 1, and then like Dak at 1, just like you were saying. I think when you look at Jalen Hurts, what he did, you'd have to say 2. And you look at Daniel Jones in his offense, I would say, and now here's the thing, I would say 3, and I would put Purdy at 4.
Really?
But here's the difference, though. If you ask me to name the teams, I would go the Niners, the Cowboys, then I would go Philly and the Giants. But here's my reasoning that I can switch everything. And you're like, well, how can Purdy be 4 but on the number 1 team? That's the difference, because Purdy doesn't have to go and do things. The difference is between these quarterbacks. Dak Prescott has to play great in that offense because of the way it's designed. Jalen Hurts has to be able to scramble, do the things he does. It's read and play great to make that offense go. Daniel Jones' offense is just boom, here it is. He's got to be great. The Niners offense is so complex, and Cal Shanahan moves defenses around. And the way that Cal Shanahan presents his offense and the things that he does to move quarterbacks and get guys open by the scheme, all you have to do is be a comparable quarterback and be accurate and understand it. And Purdy's accurate. He's more accurate than Jimmy. He's more accurate than Trey. So when you look at him, the reason why he's having success is because he understands Cal Shanahan's offense. And it's not about him. It's about, hey, I know that I got a guy named Brandon Ayuk. Oh, I know I got Debo. I know I got Hey Diddle Kittle down the middle. And I got McCaffrey. I got weapons at my disposal. Every quarterback that we talked about, it's about them. Jalen Hurts, he's got to line guys up. It's his team. You look at Dak, it's his team. If you look around the AFC, all those quarterbacks, it's about them. This is a kid that says, man, this ain't about me. He came in that locker room saying, oh, there's Debo. Oh, my God, there's Kittle. He's not thinking all the quarterback, I got to be. He's just like, all I got to do is be the man, distribute the ball to all these guys, and I know I can have success. So I think because of his mindset and because Kyle Shanahan understands the scheme, he has the least amount of pressure because he's just doing something that's so easy that too many quarterbacks complicate because Josh and all those guys, it's about them. They are the face of the franchise. They're the guy. Purdy just understands other guys are there.
That's a great point, man. And I think that's actually what suits, as you said, the 49ers the best. So it should be a very, very fun divisional round weekend. So again, my picks, I got Kansas City, I got Buffalo, I got the Giants, and I have the Niners, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas went in there and won that football game. I think that and the Bills game are the two toughest games. You got the Niners, huh? Beating the boys.
Yeah, I think that's the toughest game, though. Like you said, I think that and the Bills game is the toughest one because I think that I want the Giants, but I think the Phillies a little too much. And Kansas City, I think Kansas City is going to be. So I think without a doubt, Bills and Niners, two toughest games.
Yeah, I'd say the Niners and the Cowboys are probably the two best teams left in the NFC too. So it's kind of unfortunate they're meeting now and not in the title game, but I guess that's how seeding and everything goes, guys. So listen, that will be it for us. It should be a fantastic divisional round. We'll be on our couches, eating some wings, whatever it may be, enjoying these football games. Are you gonna go to the Niner game?
Absolutely, I'll be there, baby, working, baby. I'll be working, doing my thing. So I'll be up close and close personal. So I'll give you a call.
Do your thing, my man. That's Lorenzo, everybody. I'm Born in Azari. Cheers, everybody.